Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez has condemned the recent US State Department ban on humanitarian cargo flights from the United States to Cuba. Joe Biden is approaching a record 80 million votes, having already recorded the highest number of votes for a US presidential election winner ever. Ethiopian and Sudanese authorities announced they're working together to guarantee the safety of people displaced by the conflict in the northern Tigray region. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez has condemned the recent US State Department ban on humanitarian cargo flights from the United States to Cuba. The US Transportation Department said on Wednesday it was denying exemptions for 2 charter flight companies to deliver humanitarian cargo to Cuba, as the State Department determined the flights did not fall within exemption guidelines and said they would not be in the foreign policy interests of the United States. The 2 companies that requested authorization, Skyway Enterprises and IBC Airways, noted that the flights were humanitarian in nature to ship small or personal parcels containing food, medicine, hygiene and medical supplies. Skyway argued the flights should be permitted to address coronavirus pandemic impacts. The refusal adds to a long list of sanctions by the Donald Trump administration, which has imposed over 120 measures against the island from 2019 to date. Foreign Minister Rodriguez tweeted that the latest ban by the US State Department is cruelly inhumane, and the Trump administration is reinforcing punishment of Cuban families in both countries until the very last minute. As Cuba reopens its international airports and given the positive results in containing the COVID-19 epidemic, 34 airlines have requested to resume commercial flights with the island. President of the Cuban Civil Aviation Institute, General Armando Luis Daniel Lopez, reported that prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, 60 companies had commercial ties with Havana, and they are gradually requesting to return to operations on the island, given the favourable health conditions that Cuba has achieved. Despite the suspension of commercial flights due to the COVID-19 pandemic, over 2,300 humanitarian, cargo, medical collaboration and evacuation flights were operated during the restrictions.
Today, on behalf of the Institute of Civil Aeronautics of Cuba, we want to support the determined concept that Cuba reiterates its decision to guarantee the health and life of its nationals, as well as of the foreigners who visit us, ratifying the island as a safe destination, whose results in terms of tackling the pandemic are recognized at an international level.
Brazil received the first batch of a COVID-19 vaccine developed by China's Sinovac biotech company on Thursday. This first shipment of 120,000 doses of the CoronaVac vaccine arrived to the country through the Sao Paulo airport. The governor of the state, João Doria, reached an agreement with the Butantan Institute, a Brazilian biologic research centre, which contemplates the shipment of 6 million doses by the end of the year and the delivery of raw material to manufacture 40 million doses locally.
This is one of the vaccines that will help save the life of millions of Brazilians. We are here to receive the first batch of 120,000 doses. By the end of December, it will be 6 million. By January, it will be 46 million. And very soon, we could reach 100 million doses.
As Brazilians prepared to mark Black Awareness Day this Friday, videos circulated on social media of a black man being beaten by security guards at a supermarket in the city of Porto Alegre have sparked outrage. According to reports, emergency services attempted to resuscitate 40-year-old João Alberto Silveira Freitas at the scene, but he was already dead after having been beaten by white security guards. A short video clip showed one guard restraining him just outside the doors of a Carrefour supermarket, while the other inflicted repeated blows to his face. Other clips shot afterward showed a guard kneeling atop Freitas' back. Dozens of protesters entered a Carrefour store in Brazil's capital, Brasilia, on Friday morning, chanting Black Lives Matter. The security guards involved have been arrested on charges of aggravated homicide. And staying in Brazil, the Workers' Party candidate for mayor of the municipality of Curarinho, Leila Arruda, was murdered by her former partner in the city of Belém. The activist was the founder of the movement of enterprising women in the Amazon and was due to participate in the second round of the municipal elections this November. Social movements have expressed their solidarity and condolences to her friends and family while demanding justice. According to reports, cases of femicide continue to be on the rise in Brazil. Mexico has become the fourth country to pass the 100,000 mark of coronavirus deaths. The Health Ministry reported 576 new fatalities in its daily update on Friday to push the death toll past 100,100. To date, Mexico has confirmed more than 1 million COVID-19 cases, with over 4,400 infections registered in the last 24 hours. While the number of daily cases has begun to rise again in recent weeks, health authorities say that deaths remain on a downtrend. On a positive note, more than 766,000 patients have recovered from the virus.
Today in Mexico we have 100,000 people who have lost their lives due to COVID-19. This is an amount that is, of course, unusual. There is no previous history in Mexican society for an infectious, acute disease that could cause such a spread fast and affect the lives of so many people. Within this group of confirmed cases, unfortunately, also today we have 104 people as a consequence of the complications produced by SARS-CoV-2.
The Dominican Republic has reported over 1,000 new COVID-19 cases detected in a 24-hour period for the first time since September 3rd. More than 2.5 months later, authorities have noted an increase in positivity rates in at least 5 provinces in recent weeks. In addition, 8 further COVID-19 related deaths were reported, bringing a death toll to over 2,300. According to the latest report, the largest number of new cases were detected in the capital, Santo Domingo, with 285 new infections registered. In the last 2 months, the number of new daily positive cases has been between 500 and 600. Joe Biden's approaching a record 80 million votes, with ballots still being counted, and having already recorded the highest number of votes for a US presidential election winner ever, as President Donald Trump continues to refuse to recognize his defeat. In a gigantic turnout of the US electorate, Trump has now got a record number of votes for a losing candidate. With more than 155 million votes counted and California and New York, 2 Democratic bastions, still counting, on Thursday turnout stood at 65% of all eligible voters, the highest figure since 1908, according to data from the Associated Press and the US Elections Project. The rise in Biden tally and his popular vote lead of nearly 6 million votes has been overshadowed by Trump's escalating claims of electoral fraud stealing victory from him. Despite the overwhelming evidence, the Trump campaign and his supporters are intensifying efforts to stop or delay results being certified by state officials.
Incredibly damaging messages being sent to the rest of the world about.
And US President-elect Joe Biden denounced the irresponsibility of President Donald Trump on his refusal to concede defeat in the November 3rd elections.
Choose my words here. I think they're witnessing incredible irresponsibility, incredibly damaging messages being sent to the rest of the world about how democracy functions.
And the coronavirus pandemic continues to hit the United States hard, with over 200,000 new cases and more than 2,000 fatalities linked to COVID-19 reported in the last 24 hours. The 2,000 daily death toll was regularly surpassed during the spring, the peak of the US epidemic, but had not been exceeded for months. The country has now surpassed 12.1 million cases, and the death toll has reached over 259,000. The President of the European Commission has pointed to advances in recent talks on a post-Brexit trade deal with the United Kingdom after several difficult weeks in which there was very slow progress.
After difficult weeks with very slow progress, now we've seen in the last days better progress, more movement on important files. This is good. We still have, of course, the 3 main difficult issues: the governance, the fisheries and the level playing field. But within the frame of the level playing field, progress, for example, has been made on the question of state aid.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez announced on Friday that his government had put together a comprehensive vaccination plan, meaning Spain will have vaccinated a very substantial part of its population of 47 million people against COVID-19 by mid-2021. Spain is the first country within the European Union, alongside Germany, to fully map out such an immunisation scheme.
Our country, Spain, will be the first European Union country alongside Germany to have a comprehensive vaccination plan. We have been working on this vaccination plan since September. We are going to present it at Tuesday's cabinet meeting. We are prepared. Our foresight is to having vaccinated a very substantial part of Spanish population with all the guarantees during the first semester of 2021.
And Spain's Congress approved a new education bill on Thursday, which triggered a confrontation with right-wing sectors and private and semi-private schools. Our correspondent Adriana Cardoso brings us the details in the following report.
The debate on the new Education Act has once again revealed the polarization of the Congress. The right wing shouted freedom, while the left wing celebrated the act. The Spanish right wing, after collecting signatures, denounced that the new law attacks the Spanish language by eliminating it as a vehicular language. They also criticized the restrictions on semi-private education and the lack of public funding for schools that segregate the students depending on their sex.
It limits the parents' right to choose the kind of education for their children. It attacks the freedom of education and of school choice. So give them education in their everyday language, in their mother tongue, and don't impose the Catalan, don't impose the linguistic immersion model on them.
From the left wing, they valued the replacement of the Education Act made by Partido Popular, the opposition party, which they described as retrograde and elitist. Furthermore, the government denies the elimination of the Spanish language, and it points out that religion will not disappear from the classroom neither, but that it will simply not be a subject that can be evaluated and graded.
The educational authorities shall guarantee the right to the students to be educated in Spanish and in the other co-official languages in their respective territories. It is neither language nor the religion. The serious problems are inequality, school failure, lack of funding or segregation.
Associations for the defense of education consider that the legislation restores the public value that education should have. They point out that the existence of subsidized schools only makes sense when there are not enough public schools vacancies, which this law attempts to solve, and therefore they demand that state funds finance almost exclusively public education.
What it states is that the autonomous communities have to provide sufficient public school vacancies in all institutions, in the schools, in the childhood education. That is to say, a shortage of vacancies does not have to exist.
These associations denounce that the Act fails in having a maximum number of students per teacher.
We ask the proportion to be at least 20 in secondary school, 25 in high school and 50-20 in primary school.
The government has committed to provide funds to enforce this law in the coming years to reach 5% of the gross domestic product, though social organizations are demanding an investment of at least 7%.
Ethiopian and Sudanese authorities announced they're working together to guarantee the safety of people displaced by the conflict in the northern Tigray region. According to the Ethiopian Foreign Ministry, the country's embassy in the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, is taking steps to closely monitor and resolve the problems of citizens who've crossed the border due to what it referred to as the law enforcement operation in the regional state of Tigray. Ethiopian ambassador to Sudan, Yabeltal Almeida, said refugees may return to their home country and denied that the Ethiopian government operation could provoke an escalation of armed conflicts in the region. Earlier this week, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said a final and crucial offensive against the Tigray People's Liberation Front was underway. The conflict has caused thousands of Ethiopians to flee to neighbouring Sudan. Morocco's Interior Minister met with his Spanish counterpart this Friday during his official visit to the Moroccan capital, Rabat, to discuss what he termed irregular migration.
We have specified different measures that we have to adopt in matters mainly in the fight against irregular immigration and the fight against criminal organizations. We have clearly set out complementary measures that we have to adopt to guarantee security and fight against irregular immigration, as we have done in the field of terrorism, and guarantee, I repeat, the security of all our citizens.
Freak ice storms following abnormal weather have left 150,000 people without water and electricity in the far eastern Russian city of Vladivostok and prompted a state of emergency. The exceptional weather brought down cables and trees, prompting the government of the Primorski region to declare a state of emergency. Freezing rain began battering the city of some 600,000 people overnight on Thursday after a cyclone carrying hot air met with an anticyclone carrying cold air, according to a local weather service official. In some places, the resulting ice was 12 millimeters thick, something that had not been seen in the region for 30 years. Azerbaijan said Friday its troops had entered Agdam district, which was handed back by Armenian separatists after almost 30 years as part of the Russian-brokered peace deal to end weeks of fighting in the region. Armenian police and Russian peacekeepers were seen on the closed road to the district, which marks a new borderline between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The Azerbaijani Defense Ministry explained that Agdam is one of 3 districts to be handed over. Days before, columns of Armenian soldiers and tanks rolled out of the territory. Armenia will also hand over the Kalbajar district, wedged between Nagorno-Karabakh and Armenia, on November 25th, and Lachin district by December 1st. The Fatah alliance has expressed its rejection of the partial withdrawal of US troops from Iraq and demanded their total withdrawal. Karim Alawi from the Parliament's Security and Defence Committee declared on behalf of the bloc that all national factions are demanding that foreign military forces leave the country entirely. He said the decision to reduce the number of troops was unacceptable and emphasised that the US Pentagon must comply with the parliamentary resolution calling for their departure from Iraq, including the semi-autonomous region of Kurdistan. The Acting Secretary of Defense of the United States, Christopher Miller, announced that some 2,500 soldiers will remain in Afghanistan as well as in Iraq following the planned withdrawals. Another member of the Parliamentary Security and Defense Committee, Qatal al-Rikabi, assured that the change in the US presidency will not influence what was agreed by Iraqi legislators. On Friday, India's Health Ministry reported that the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases had surpassed 9 million, the world's second highest tally after the United States. India also has the 3rd highest COVID-19 death toll in the world at over 132,000. However, many experts believe this is likely to be an underestimate due to low levels of testing compared to other countries. In the last 24 hours, the nation has registered more than 46,000 cases and nearly 600 deaths. At one of the capital New Delhi's largest cemeteries, burial space is fast running out as coronavirus cases continue to surge.
Just like the first time when there was a surge in death rate, the same thing is repeating now. The rate at which dead bodies are arriving, we are running out of burial space for COVID victims. We will need new space by the end of this month. It is evident that people have become careless now. They aren't as afraid of the virus as they were before. People wouldn't go and touch the body of someone who died of COVID-19, and the streets were also far emptier, but not anymore. When I speak to families who have lost a loved one to COVID-19, they are the ones who understand the seriousness of the disease. They tell us to be careful. This disease is very dangerous. Until people experience it up close, they don't know the seriousness of the issue.
The Syrian Ministry of Health reported 72 new COVID-19 cases on Friday, taking the total to almost 7,000 since the virus was first detected in the country on March 22nd. Almost 3,000 patients have recovered from the virus, while 363 people have died, according to data from the Ministry of Health, which insists on respecting prevention measures at workplaces, educational and religious institutions. Homs and Latakia, 2 provinces on the Mediterranean coast, reported 20 coronavirus cases each, the highest figure of infections recorded in a day in the country. Syria maintains its borders closed, has restrictions in place for attendance at sports stadiums and a ban on large-scale public events. Now we've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss and thank you for watching.